going on, guys? Back with another one. And I just watched a movie called Heretic, starring Hugh Grant, of course, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East. First of all, this film is highly controversial. Well, if it's not yet, it soon will be. I can only imagine it should. In the 90s, it would. Take my word, take my old ass word for that, please. And because of that, I've got to discuss religious controversial movies. All right. Because religion and politics is kind of like the bar scene. If you ever been to a bar, you know that you don't mention that in a bar, or you get kicked the hell out because it kills the mood for a lot of people. And that's the similar thing for film. But in film, it could most likely raise a lot of questions that you don't want to think about, or, you know, most people don't want to think about.
Dear God.
Oh, dear God.
And so I have to bring up 4 movies off the top of my head that came to mind when I think about religious controversy. And the first one I need to talk about is Dogma. This is one of the obvious ones. All right, I probably brought this up before. I have, but I haven't gotten into depth on this. But not only is this a funny movie, it really digs into religion. Okay, it really goes into the corners that no one else was talking about when it comes to comedy. I'll say that. I'll say as a comedy, it's one of the first to not hold back as far as how far they want to go with making you think about religion on so many aspects of it. One of the greater scenes that just made me laugh really hard was with George Carlin, R.I.P. Always going to be there every time I bring him up. He was the priest or something like that, and he was marketing a statue of Jesus. Thumbs up, right? And the things he was saying in that scene, insane. That's those things he said in that scene. You definitely will get an uproar today, just off that one scene because of George Carlin. All right, so I really laughed so hard. I'm not even gonna lie, I laughed a little too hard at that. Just the smiling Jesus,
Buddy Christ,
and it's what it threw me off every time I watched that. Another movie, Saved, with Macaulay Culkin in it, and there's like a pop singer in there. I keep forgetting her name, but she was popular back in the day. All right, she was very popular back in the day, man. But not a lot of people know about this comedy. Okay, not a lot of people remember it or anything like that. But it was like a church camp or something like that, and they were just revealing on how, even though it's a church camp and it's for religious kids and so on and so on, the kids in that church camp are nowhere near perfect. There are a lot of how can I say it, heathens in that camp or in that school or religious school or whatever. A lot of heathens walking around in that. All right, even Macaulay Culkin, the wheelchair kid, he had some things going on with him, and so it highlighted that you know, even though you are put into this vision or visual of what you're supposed to be, that doesn't mean that you're gonna be like that. All right, And that's why I love that. Because sometimes when you get kids like this who are raised religious, they turn out to be worse than kids who are not. It happens over and over again. That's why you get a lot of preachers' kids that are just horrible people, wild animals, because they were raised and smothered for so long in a situation like that. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's what happens a lot. It's the truth, you know? And that movie really expressed that. Another, Mr. Orgasmo, hear me out before you start saying, what the hell? You just wanted to add this in here because you like the movie and you thought, you like South Park. No, that's half of it. But really, this kind of relates more to the movie I'm talking about right now because of the Mormonism. The Mormons going from door to door, selling the religion and trying to get people on board. That's teased in this movie a lot. And it took the boys from South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, to go there. And I respect them for going there, all right, where no one else was going to go, because there are a lot of aspects about Mormon religion that can easily be made fun of. Any religion can be made fun of like that, and on certain points of it. Don't get mad at me, but they just keep going for the Mormonism. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. All right. Last movie I got to talk about. Passion of the Christ. And I've mentioned this a couple of times, I know, as being a very crazy movie. But I have to say this again. It is one of the wildest religious movies put out, just because it told the truth. It told the hard, cold truth, and it had nothing to do with comedy, nothing to do with making you laugh. That was not their goal. So you can't say, oh, they're just doing it for the sake of a joke. It was not a joke at all. And so that shook things up. Now in a bar, you get kicked out. But in the theaters, this movie got so much attention just because of that. All right. And, it is what it is. It is what it is. Sometimes you gotta get some people mad, shake it up a little bit. But hey, it did its job. It did its job perfectly, even though it was a lot of hate going on towards it. And now we have Heretic. And my question is, will this movie go on that list with the movies that have managed to shake some things up? But to find out, let's go. Heretic, for those that don't know, for those who are not aware, I'm not even gonna, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I mean, this got advertised a few times, and it's like they tried to hide this movie from people. Like they didn't want people to really know about it, but then they wanted to know about it. You gotta advertise it. Because somebody paid you to advertise it. But at the same time, they were like, oh, but we don't want to advertise it too much because it's pushed a lot of buttons. It might push a lot of buttons. So if you don't know about it, I can't penalize you this time. You can slide. You can slide, man. You get a pass. All right. Heretic, pretty much about these two girls. All right. Sister Brownstone, I forgot her name. Just know it's two girls who are going around doing their Mormon thing. The Mormon. What is this? What are the Mormons doing?
Jehovah's Witness.
Right, Jehovah Witness. My bad. And so on their stop, they go to a house that had personally requested that they come over and spread the word to them. So they walk up on this house, knock. Of course, that's the only way you can get somebody to open the door. Knock, ring the doorbell, whatever they have to do. It takes a little time for that person to answer the door. You hear all this noise and whatnot going on. And then, of course, Mr. Reed, aka Hugh Grant, answers that door. Right? Now, it's raining bad. It's raining really bad. He asks them, do you want to come in? Because it's raining bad. They say, oh, no, that's okay. We can take the rain. It's cool. We really can't come in the house without a female present inside the house. Sir, do you have a female present inside the house? You have to let us know this. That's the rule. He tells them, yes, his wife is in there, cooking something up in the kitchen real quick. Come on in. They come on in, right? And they look around and they see how odd the house looks already from just walking in on your first observation of the house. Okay? And so while this is going on and they're taking a look around and they're going to spread the word and they're trying to spread the word, he keeps interrupting and kind of jumping in and asking all these weird questions that are really not weird, but it's just not something they expected him to ask. And so he keeps, stalling them and prolonging it. And to the point that they start to get nervous and worry and because they're not seeing the wife come out yet. But while this is going on, he sits them down somehow and starts asking deeper and deeper questions about religion. And at this point, they know something is horribly wrong about to happen. And he just begins quizzing them and sending them through tests of faith within his house as people who are captured, pretty much. And that's the premise of the movie. All right. Positives. Mr. Reed's study of religion was impeccable. This man knew so much. He knew a lot more than those young girls who entered the house. Obviously, he knew so much more than them. All right, and it showed. It showed. He knew a lot more than they knew, and at every turn and step that he took, he would bring up different examples of how religion was copied from a copy of a copy of a copy. And he did it through board games. He did it through music. He did it through fast food restaurants. He showed examples through fast food restaurants. Not just a copy thing, just what can you really believe? What should you believe? Should you believe something that was man written? All this stuff. I'm not saying this from my opinions. I'm saying this from what he's talking about. And he just, it felt strongly like he knew what he was talking about so much. He knew what he was talking about, okay? You can't argue the fact of that. At least he knew. He was informed. He was educated on what he spoke. And if you have a spokesperson for whatever he's trying to push, then he'd be the perfect one, okay? Because his whole thing was the true religion. I'm not going to say too much more than that, but he was really trying to ask that question. What is the true religion? What is the true religion? Remember that when watching this movie, okay? It's very deep. And it's something that if I keep explaining, I'm going to mess it up because I'm going to mess up so much things that he said. So I'm not even going to go there, but just know that. Another positive. Hugh Grant was brilliant in this. And that, you might think that's the same thing what I just said about him knowing so much. But no, I'm talking about Hugh Grant as an actor and how he portrayed this character. we've been knowing for a long time that Hugh Grant is also good at playing the villain in movies, because he's played the stuttering, bumbling British fool for so long that we didn't think about, hey, he can play a villain too. He can play the bad, creepy guy. And he's played something close in recent movies in the past, but up till now, it hasn't been to this level. And he did such a great job, an outstanding job as Mr. Reed. Okay, it's almost scary how good he was at this. Okay, it's supposed to be. It's really supposed to be. His whole intimidation game that he plays is both an intelligent approach and at the same time physical. But he doesn't have to show so much of the physical, because he already knows that he could probably get the best of these two girls. All right, but he's going in with the mind approach, the mental approach of really trapping them in there and getting them, that in that way. All right, and yeah, Hugh Grant did a great job with that. Trust me. Another positive. The level of controversy in this movie is crazy. Okay, like I said, when I asked if this should be on a list, it should be on the top, because it really goes into detail. Like I mentioned earlier, it really goes into detail on his examples of religion, and he brings up so many things that some people are not going to want to hear. All right, so you're not even want to approach the subject that he's approaching. All right, and it made those girls so nervous to talk about a lot of the stuff that he brought up. Like, I'm not gonna say the entire word, but let's just say he talked about polygamy. He talked about polygamy. All right, he talked about false prophets, so on and so on. Every corner you could hit is going to piss someone off. I guarantee you that. I'm not even going to hold you on that. And I'm serious, because I don't usually use the word hold you in the young terms. But yeah, it's going to shake some things up. This is definitely the movie to do that. All right. I knew it. And I was sitting there like, yeah, a lot of people are not going to like this at all. And I can see why. But you got to push the envelope sometimes, right? You got to push that envelope if you want to turn some heads. Last positive. This had me literally on the edge of my seat. I'm not just saying that as a phrase. All right. No, I'm saying this as the truth. There were things that were going on in this movie that you had to really pay close attention to see if this was real or if there was some foolery going on. And that's a good thing to do. And that's a very smart move that they pulled by having me have to really look at, well, besides the fact that I'm kind of a blind fool on that. I'm blind. Okay. My eyes are bad for real. And so besides that, you still might have to look a little closer to see, because there are dark scenes where things are happening or taking place. And if you don't pay attention, you might not catch it. You might not even catch some things. And I'm not trying to say too much because I don't want to give things away. But yeah, they do things like, they do that kind of trickery in the movie. Like, you have to really pay attention to certain scenes. And it's made to fool the girls in certain ways, or cloud their mind on, what they believe and what he believes. All right. Negatives. How is it those girls couldn't realize he can hear everything you say?
I hear everything.
You do know that, right? Why? And a lot of people in horror movies make this mistake of thinking that their loud ass whispering is going to not be heard by the bad guy, the villain in the film. It no matter how far off they are, if you can't see where this guy is at while you're whispering to your friend about what plan y'all gonna make, if you can't realize that, then y'all both were not that intelligent or smart. They were not smart at all in the aspects of that. You should probably whisper a little lower, all right, and use more physical signs of what you need to do. Write some stuff down. Write things down. You have I think they had their cell phones on them still, right? I can't remember, but yeah, you should probably do that too. Type, cell phone. Don't sit here and real loud, and this man can still hear you. He can still hear you. They were in a room with them at one point, and they were still acting like he was not in the room. And he just sat there with his back turned like, you're making it so easy for me. Y'all are making it so easy for me. So that's one negative on this. Another negative. How long can you live after you get stabbed with a box cutter in the gut? And I'm not going to say anything further on detail of where this pertains to the movie, but I can imagine that if you get stabbed with anything of any kind of sharpness to it, you only have a limited time before you bleed out, right? I would think that, but for some reason, in movies, people still live for a long time. Magically. A long ass time. They don't even have to put a tourniquet around it or have a way to close off the bleeding or stop the bleeding. They just keep on moving around. You could blame it on adrenaline, but not for that long. Last negative. How did Mr. Reed know that company would show up? Okay, because there are certain things in this movie that the victims would need to pull their attention away from in order for, something to be pulled off, something to take place. And when this is being done, for this to take place and happen, there were some certain times that other people came to the door, and Mr. Reed had to draw his attention away from those girls and go answer the door. And then when those girls, look around, they notice other things or whatever. I'm not saying too much. They notice stuff. All right. So was he relying on somebody else to come and knock? I don't understand that. How long does he think that was gonna, he'd have to sit there before that happened? That was so weird. That was really weird. How that all took place. How that all just went down like that. Okay, it's a flaw in the movie. It's a flaw, and it's almost like I don't think the writer thought that through.
Are you using your brain? Think, man.
But anyways, because of the content of this movie and how far they took it, I have to give this a hell yeah. This is by far the best controversial religious movie in my eyes, man. This did it. This did it. So detailed, so educated on the topic. Press that like button, share. You better subscribe.